afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. Sinead here with Tours by Foot London on a very special occasion. Now, this is specifically for your convenience. Today, I'm going to show you how to do London in a day. This is all the big hitters. Now, these are the major sites, and I wanted to show people because people get intimidated by the size of London and they think London isn't accessible, but it's perfectly accessible. Join me for a memorable day out, not only on here, but you can also book this public tour. We are live right now from March. You can pay for this tour with our small groups, minimum groups for your complete and utter enjoyment. Join me every Wednesday, Friday and Saturday. And not only that, you give them a code Sinead1010 and I have organized a massive discount for you to join me on our public tours. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoy this one, ladies and gents, with Tours by Foot London. Well, our London in a Day tour and our Westminster tour starts right here outside Green Park Station. So when you come in on the Jubilee line or the Victoria line to Green Park Station, you take the exit for Buckingham Palace, and this is our meeting point right here in Green Park. And then we schedule the tour for about 9:50 for a 10 a.m. start. Now, we're quite religious on our start times only because we need to get down here for specific events that will be taking place throughout the tour. So you take this path right along, wait until I show you the first view of Buckingham Palace. It's naturally the first stop on our tour is the incredible Buckingham Palace, the London home and office of their Majesties King Charles III and Queen Camilla. Now, it's also important to note that the changing of the guard takes place Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. And ladies and gentlemen, please do not make the amateur mistake of hanging out and waiting for the guard change at the gates of Buckingham Palace. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a waste of your time. It will take you 2 to 3 hours of queuing in order to see, well, virtually very minimal part of the changing of the guard. My strongest recommendation is that you watch my video, how to do the changing of the guard correctly, because every guide in London on that day will be down at St. James's Palace. And we will show you some of the best visuals today of the changing of the guard that we can get on our all-in-one tour. Now, the palace is always the big hitter, always busy down here, and the London Home and Office, but known as the office, folks. The royal family only occupy 8 out of 775 rooms, and they occupy this far right corner. Now, all the history of the palace and the architect John Nash and George III and George IV, I will be telling you all about on the tour. Take a little stroll up here. This is an incredible viewing point as well of the palace, and it's great for family photographs, etc. Now, the changing of the guard actually begins at St. James's Palace, and that I will explain to you how we will be seeing the soldiers this morning on this very tour. And from there, they have an incredible visual of them returning back into the gates of Wellington Barracks. So this is a perfect image as well. This is the one you'll be most familiar with the royal reporters and correspondents when they're here filming the royal events. So let's make our way down to the current home of King Charles and Queen Camilla. And this is where we fortunately get most of our royal sightings. Beautiful view of the Victoria Memorial as well. And there is Queen Victoria sitting on her perch. And that will conclude our first part of the palaces on our tour. But of course, we will have, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 4 in total on the entire all-in-one. And I will let you know which one, quite surprisingly, you don't assume is a palace, but I will let you know very shortly when we head in to Parliament. Now, the situation of where we are, this is the Mall. And the Mall is the red brick road, runs all the way from Trafalgar Square all the way up to Buckingham Palace. And this is where the soldiers march inside the palace gates on the changing of the guard mornings. Now, the Mall was built to resemble a red brick road, it's a red brick road built to resemble a red carpet leading all the way up into the palace. And this you will recognize from my coronation tours and the funeral tours, where I myself slept here behind these railings for about 30 hours for both of the events. But let's head down here to the current home of King Charles and Queen Camilla. What's up, ladies and gents? Clarence House. Now, this has always been a preferred residence of the royal family. In fact, the Queen Mother lived up in here up until she passed away at the tender age of 101. It is also where Princess Diana left that morning as a young bride in the royal carriage, heading out from here towards her wedding to the then Prince Charles, Prince of Wales. Now, the house itself is the current home of King Charles III and Queen Camilla. It is their kind of official London residence. It's their preferred residence, in fact. And this is where we were very lucky to get most of our sightings of the King. So a handy tip for you is, and I think most of you will know this, the British flag is currently flying from the top of Clarence House. It's a little difficult to see between the trees, but it was also flying at Buckingham Palace. If the royal standard flag is flying, that means the king is in residence. And always keep an eye around these gates because you never know when he's on the move. It's actually quite simple to spot him. If you see 6 white motorbikes, the outriders behind those gates, that means he's ready to move. So next stop, ladies and gents, we're heading down to the incredible St. James's Palace. Folks, St. James's Palace, the most official, senior and royal working palace of them all. Buckingham Palace is actually only in the court of St. James's Palace, and this palace was built by Henry VIII for his second wife, Anne Boleyn. She famously never saw it in its completion because she had her head chopped off in the Tower of London, folks, 2 years prior to its completion. Stunning exterior of the palace, and it's situated right here on Marlborough Road, just in front of the shopping district of the royal family, St. James's Street. Now, this is where King Charles I of England spent his last night before his very public execution on Whitehall. It is also where the King Charles was officially proclaimed king by the Ascension and Privy Council on Ascension Day this year. An incredible ceremony, the last of which had taken place in 1952, when Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was formally proclaimed as Queen after the death of her father, King George VI. Now, the chapel in the grounds of this palace is where Queen Victoria married her beloved Prince Albert, and it's also where little Prince George was baptised, as it's where Lady Diana was laid in state before her public funeral in Westminster Abbey. And because of that, the Prince of Wales and the Princess of Wales wanted Prince George to be baptised in there, so Diana felt a connection with the ceremony. Significance to us on our all-in-one tour is this is exactly where you would stand for the beginning of the changing of the guard ceremony. And the soldiers all assemble here in this courtyard, have a uniform inspection, and the band will play a song and entertain the crowds. We will be waiting for them right down by these gates. And that's what we're going to do this morning. I wanted to show you the best views you can get. Okay, so I've taken a position at this vantage point this morning, you guys, to get the best view. And it's the whistles and drums this morning, or the pipes and whistles and drums, followed up by the 22 signal regiment that have been on duty for 24 hours. Now, as you'll see, no red jackets at the moment. They're in the winter coats. Now, en route of the Household Cavalry, you'll see them in just a moment, folks. Now, you guys, there's obviously a couple of other stages to the changing of the guard. But again, just to remind you, ladies and gents, to reiterate, this is a all London, all in one of Westminster tour. So we do part of the guard change. But if you want to see how the full guard change is done, check out my video, the changing of the guard video, how to do it when 99% of people do it wrong. Right, let's have a lovely little stroll through the park. Now it's imperative to take a little selfie and an Instagram on this very bridge. Now it does tend to get very crowded, but we always manage to get a really good view. And let me show you what you will see on both sides. Right here, better spot up here from experience, it captures all of the incredible Horse Guards parade. And in the background, framed by the London Eye on the left, on the right of your screen. Here's my captive audience, ladies and gents. Now, as you exit the park, you will see the gentlemen coming out of the main entrance there, are standing at the door of what is the Cabinet War Rooms of Winston Churchill. And these are the underground bunkers and offices from where Churchill commanded and coordinated the troops from during World War II. And it is an incredible interactive display. Literally in 1945, when the last bomb dropped, they got up and left the rooms exactly as they were. The maps, the War Council room, Churchill's bedroom, Churchill's bathroom. In fact, Churchill stood on the roof of this very building, the Treasury building, watching bombs raining down on London during the Blitz. I would recommend you head up these steps right here on the left to get an amazing view of the Minster in the west. Minster, the former name for an abbey, hence Westminster Abbey. Isn't this just incredible? Folks, there has been a site of Christian worship on that site for over 1,000 years, since when King William the Conqueror of England, he rode his horse up the aisle of Westminster Abbey on Christmas Day 1066. On that day, he declared himself King of England. Ever since, every king and queen in British history, with the exception of only two, have all been crowned inside in Westminster Abbey, including Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 1953 and King Charles III and Queen Camilla, their Majesties, 6th of May, 2023. The Houses of Parliament, ladies and gents, and the Victoria Tower, named after Queen Victoria in her Diamond Jubilee, when she was 60 years on the throne. The precise reason that Big Ben, which is the bell inside the clock tower, was renamed the Elizabeth Tower in the year of the Diamond Jubilee of Her Majesty the Queen. So two female monarchs, and the only two to reach 60 years on the throne. And currently I'm walking through what was known as the Old Palace Yard. And it's in this very location, this area, where Guy Fawkes of the Gunpowder Plot assassination attempt was executed. Here is a perfect view of these incredible buildings. Gothic perpendicular architecture, rebuilt by Charles Barry and Augustus Pugin. Now, this grey or whiter part of the building you see directly in front of me now, this is Westminster Hall, and this is the oldest part of the Palace of Westminster. In that very building, King Charles I of England The only British king to be was condemned to death. Also inside there, where Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was laid in state before she had a very public funeral in Westminster Abbey. So right here in the centre of the road is where I would recommend you all get your photo then, with Big Ben directly in the background, and the Elizabeth Tower. And you'll see in the background there, we also have the London Eye. Now here's the Ministry of Defence building, and directly opposite, ladies and gents, is number 10 Downing Street. Now Downing Street has been home to the British Prime Minister in this country since 1730, and the very first that took up residence was Robert Walpole. Number 11 is home to the Minister for Finance. Now, as you can see, it's much more secure than it used to be. Years ago in the 1980s, well, years ago, that's nearly 40 years now, you could head right up to the door of Downing Street, get your selfie, and off you went. But there was an attempt on the life of Margaret Thatcher, and after that, ladies and gents, it became much more secure. So just to reiterate where it is, it's actually just here on the right-hand side there. The kind of bluey-grey building. It's not the first black door you see, and you'll see the press are actually directly opposite Downing Street, so that gives you a good vantage point. And this is the compound of number 10. Now this is Horse Guards Parade, folks, and this is where the guard change takes place at 11 o'clock for both regiments of the Horse Guards. This building right in front of you is the Admiralty, the chief officers of the Navy, of course, where Sir Ian Fleming as a young man worked in there. We believe he got many of the influence for his James Bond novels, of course. And right around here, just to the back behind those trees, is the back of number 10 Downing Street, hence the policeman there off to the left. And the building itself, folks, Horse Guards Parade, former offices actually of the Duke of Wellington. Just give you a quick panoramic around the area. Now the soldiers on sentry, the dismounted soldiers here, they do 2 hours on, 4 hours off. 2 hours on in a 4-hour shift. The horses, because of animal rights, do an hour at a time. So we're going to wait and position ourselves. Let me show you exactly where you need to be for an on-the-hour guard change. Now, just for reference, you need to be right behind this white line, just where the gift shop is. This is the particular white line, and that will give us an amazing viewing point of the horse guard change. And in fact, it gets a bit chaotic here because when all the guides arrive with their groups, all the people that are in front of this white line get moved behind you. So hold your line, soldiers. And we make our way up to our final stop on the first part of the tour. This is the Westminster, Royal London and Classic Westminster. Let's make our way to Trafalgar Square. And that will take us up then to Trafalgar Square, folks, featuring Nelson's Column the National Gallery, and the foremost photographed lions in the world. So this is where we'll take a mini break for lunch, you guys. And that's, if you want to get a bite to eat, there's a couple of lovely places around here, including the Sherlock Holmes, the Admiralty, and right underneath that church, a stunning little place called the Crypt. So we'll resume the tour after about an hour and a half. So let's head in to the 2,000-year-old Roman city. So the second part of our London in a day will be the highlights of the 2,000-year-old Roman city. Now, by far a big contrast to the City of Westminster part tour we took this morning, but this area was plagued by tragedy since its formation. We're going to go back all the way to the Roman invasion. We're going to speak about the Great Fire of London, the Great Plague of London, 1665 and 1666, and of course the bombing campaign of World War II. So let's get this started for the highlights of the second part of our London in. The first thing we see when we arrive is our first Sir Christopher Wren church on the tour. Now, Christopher Wren, widely regarded to be the Leonardo da Vinci of London, built 51 churches here in London after the Great Fire. 21 of them still exist to this day, and we'll also be seeing the masterpiece. So this is St. Clement Danes. And what I want to show you, immediately we're struck with World War II history. It has original pock damage on the wall from damage during the Blitz in World War II, left there as a permanent reminder from the people of London to remind themselves that they rose from the ashes of World War II. Now, this area also will feature two of the highest courts in the land. Now, this is going to be an overview of our tour. Obviously, I'll go into a lot more in-depth history on the day. So I'm so excited that you're going to join me on this London all in a day tour and look at this magnificent building. Ladies and gentlemen, the Royal Civil Courts of Justice, the highest civil court in the land, where well, technically, I guess the Supreme Court would be the highest court in the land, but this is the highest civil court, and we'll also be seeing the highest criminal court in the land today. Very cathedral-esque, as you can see. The architect, a chap by the name of George Street. Let's just say he was a rather famous, frustrated cathedral architect. Had never been commissioned to build that cathedral he so long desired, until he won the commission for the Royal Civil Courts of Justice. So we'll be exploring Fleet Street on our tour. So right now, I'll show you a couple of the highlights of what to expect on the day, including Twining's Tea Store. Same shop, same service, same family, same location for over 300 years. The beautiful Twining's Tea Store. So this isn't just any tour, because this brings you to all the major sites in London in one day. So whether it's your first time, which will be of the most impact to you, or your second or third time, this isn't just a tour, it's actually a London experience. And right in front of us is the Monument to Temple Bar. So this will officially mark the point where we leave the City of Westminster and enter into the City of London. But let me explain the dynamics of the City of London to you. And we go all the way back. There are 32 paths on the London Eye that represent the 30 boroughs and the two cities of Greater London. The City of Westminster, 1,000 years old, and the City of London, 2,000 years old. So when the Romans first landed in AD 43, they built a huge Roman wall of the city, evidence of which you'll still see, and I'll be showing you today, at the Tower of London and the City and the Museum of London and several other spots. But they built a huge Roman wall around the city, and there were 8 gates into the City of London. Some of them you'll be familiar with: Aldgate, Ludgate, Cripplegate, Moorgate. You get the idea. So 1,000 years later, the Romans are long gone, and William the Conqueror invades his country, and he finds it much easier to conquer people in grass huts and mud huts outside those city walls than to penetrate inside. So he agrees to leave the citizens of the City of London to their own devices, provided they recognize him as king. So to this day, this area has its own police force, its own Lord Mayor, its own governing body, and its own sets of rules. So technically, it's like its own separate county. I guess a bit like the Vatican, if you like. But as a throwback to a time gone by, you will see some of the old press offices here in London en route as well. And this is Fleet Street, where all the British press was printed. So this area would have been a hive of activity of writers, authors, editors, proofreaders, cartoonists and journalists. And some of the most famous writers in British history lived and worked and frequented along Fleet Street here. Now this is magnificent. This is an amazing statue. This is the only remaining statue of Elizabeth I in London, the Virgin Queen. This was actually erected in her lifetime. This statue dates back to 1542, I believe. I'll have to clarify that, but this is an incredible statue. Not its original location, but it was removed here when it was in danger of being damaged. But look at the magnificent condition it's in. Now, as we're walking along Fleet Street, I always believe the best way to see London is by foot. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that with a guide, you can experience it in a much more knowledgeable way. And I wanted to show you the little things today that you might miss on your own. So for that purpose, we're going to head up the back streets. And this is what makes the City of London so impressive, is the hidden history in the area. Now, make no mistake about it, where we are right now, we're walking in the exact footsteps of the likes of Johnson, Tennyson, Charles Dickens, W.B. Yeats, Samuel Pepys and Voltaire have all walked these back streets that we're heading to today. I'm going to head around the back to the home of Dr. Samuel Johnson, who compiled the first authentic English dictionary, an amazing writer, philosopher, and lived in this house. And with his team, they compiled the first authentic English dictionary. Now, he was also known for his love of cats. And around here is where you'll meet the very famous Hodge, who was the favorite cat of Dr. Johnson. As you can see, there's a guide here already. And here is the incredible Hodge sitting on his dictionary, as you can see there, Dr. Johnson's famous cat. If you're inclined on the day as well, you can leave some pennies for good luck for him. And he's actually seated on Dr. Johnson's dictionary. So we're going to head around the back here. And halfway through, in probably what is considered to be one of the most famous pubs in the City of London, hard to knock it down as the oldest pub in London. That's a very hard one to pinpoint. I personally think it's in the Prospect of Whitby. But this is the Old Cheshire Cheese. And this dates back to 1667, my apologies. It was rebuilt 1 year after the Great Fire of London. And this is a must on any London tour. And the beauty of the Cheshire Cheese, it has the original 17th century interior. And here is a list of every king and queen that has reigned since the Cheshire Cheese opens its doors, which is pretty special. And as you can see, they're running out of room down here. It was missing for about 6 months while they restored this incredible parchment. So the Cheshire Cheese is always a highlight, folks, but probably one of my favorite places to bring anybody is inside this incredible church. This is St. Bride's Church, or the Wedding Cake Church. Another church modelled on the Christopher Wren was built on the site prior to this. But downstairs is an incredible museum where you can visit yourselves or with me, and we'll give you some dark history on the body snatchers and the church itself. Another highlight, wonderful atmospheric courtyard of the church itself, folks, featuring the only Christopher Wren pub in London, the Old Bell, built to facilitate the stonemasons once they were building the church themselves. Now, we're obviously just giving you the basics and the highlights of what you are most likely to see on the day. But there will be in-depth history And many's a tale to tell. Okay, next up, the People's Church of Great Britain, built on the highest point in London, Ludgate Hill, the masterpiece of the widely regarded Leonardo da Vinci of London, Sir Christopher Wren. Let's head for St. Paul's Cathedral. Of course, will take us to the magnificent St. Paul's Cathedral, featured on the tour, completed in 1710, remarkably only took 35 years to build. No small achievement when you consider every bit of stone was transported to the highest point in London using horse and carriage. Diana married Charles in here. Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher's funerals held in here. Horatio Nelson, the victor of the Battle of Trafalgar, buried in here. The Duke of Wellington, victor over Napoleon, buried in here. Sir Christopher Wren himself, buried inside in the building. On his very humble tomb it reads, "If you seek my memorial, look around you." 365 feet high. You can actually climb to the top of the dome, folks. Tickets for St. Paul's can be bought here, online, or also on the day they can be bought inside the church itself. But you see the people up on top have 537 steps to the top. Ladies and gentlemen, the incredible St. Paul's Cathedral. Next up, let's head down the back streets and show you more of Old World City of London and head straight in to the financial district. And this is where you truly see the contrast between the old and the new. So this takes us down into this beautiful little area, and it focuses on the back streets of the City of London. And this is John Milton Passage. And yes, you guessed it, the poet and statesman John Milton was born in 1608 here on Bread Street. So just this little area here features the Church of St. Mary Le Bow. And the legend has it, if you were born within earshot of the Bow Bells, you were a true original Cockney. And here we have Captain John Smith, the founder of modern-day Virginia, of Pocahontas fame. And we're going to head straight down around Bow Churchyard. Let me show you these beautiful, quaint little streets. And that will take us straight around down towards the Bloomberg building. We'll head right into the financial district. Look at this little side street. This is Bow Churchyard. This beautiful side street and the churches. Look at the main street here. On a weekday, this place is thronged with bankers queuing up for the various restaurants in the area. Directly in front of you is this incredible building. This is the Bloomberg building. And this building took nearly 12 years to build and won every architectural design award in the UK. It's super high spec, environmentally friendly, from its solar panels to its wind panels, and has an incredible free museum downstairs, the London and Mithraean Museum. And this, when they dug further into the foundations, they dug further than they ever have in the City of London. They found entire preserved Roman civilizations, and everything they found is on display downstairs here in the Bloomberg Museum. So for right now, I'm going to head straight down here. This, in my opinion, is the beauty of the City of London, the contrast between the old and the new. Right there in the centre, you see the newest observation tower in London. This is Bishopsgate 22. This is Horizon 22. And this affords you the best view now. It's the tallest observation tower in London, again free of charge. And we're heading into the area of Sky Garden. So let me take you straight down into the centre. Look at this incredible part of London. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bank of England. England, the advisory bank to the government of Great Britain. Here's the Royal Exchange, one of the first stock exchanges in London. We have St. Mary Woolnoth, the beautiful church. And right behind me here, Mansion House. This is the official home of the Lord Mayor of the City of London. There's number 1 Poultry, the Poultry Building. And here we have Mansion House Street, which is actually the smallest street in London. Right here in the heart of the financial district. Next stop will take us to the monument to the Great Fire of London. A monument by Christopher Wren, coming up right down the end of this street. Here you have it, the monument to the Great Fire of London. An observation tower. You'll see the people up on top. If you're feeling particularly energetic on an afternoon, you can take all 311 steps to the top, folks. They'll even give you a certificate for reaching the top. But it does afford you amazing panoramic and bird's eye views around London. And it's actually said that if Monument fell on its left-hand side, that gold tip you see there, built to resemble a flame from the Great Fire of London, they say would actually hit the basement, would actually hit the location of the bakery on Pudding Lane, where the Great Fire began in 1666. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our next stop on the tour will be London Bridge, Tower Bridge, and the Tower of London. You walk straight in the direction, you'll come to London Bridge, with an incredible view of Tower Bridge, folks. Now, London Bridge is not to be confused with Tower Bridge. There's been a bridge on this site for over 2,000 years. This is actually the 7th bridge on the site. The John Rennie Bridge was erected in, I believe it was 1968. And it replaced the previous bridge, which was actually sold to an American millionaire by the name of Robert McCulloch. And Robert McCulloch bought the bridge, had it dismantled, and shipped to the United States. And it is now in Arizona, in Lake Havasu. So you can cross the previous London Bridge in Arizona, folks. Right ahead of us is the Shard, which used to be the tallest building in Western Europe. And this is the view, the breathtaking view that awaits you. Tower Bridge, not to be confused with London Bridge. And where we're going to head next on our tour is we're going to take these steps, walk along the river. The leg on the tour takes us on a beautiful little pathway walk right down to the Tower of London. And it also gives you some amazing views of the bridge along the way and viewing points where you can get the perfect image of Tower Bridge. I'll show you some of them in just a moment. This is one of those viewing spots just as you approach Tower Bridge, folks. HMS Belfast, one of the most important battle cruisers in British naval history. The Hayes Galleria. Customs House right behind us, folks. Where all the imported goods were taxed and excised. This building, there we go. An amazing view of the bridge. So you head just around the corner. And ladies and gents, it's always a pleasure to bring people to see the incredible Tower of London, built to intimidate and impress in the time of William the Conqueror in 1078. If you control the tower, You actually control the River Thames. If you control the Thames, you control London. And if you control London at the time, you controlled the largest empire the world had ever seen, the British Empire. You look over here, you'll see a beefeater tour. And they give you a great overview of the Tower of London and bring you into the Church of St. Peter ad Vincula, where you will see the burial place of Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. You will be lucky enough to meet the beefeaters as well, or the yeoman warders. Up with this incredible view of the tower, ladies and gents, and I really hope you enjoyed my version of London in a day. I would be so thrilled if you could join me, ladies and gents. Don't forget, you can book London All-in-One with me, Sinead, on the Tours by Foot website for March, indefinitely, ladies and gents, every Wednesday, Friday and Saturday. A paid tour and a paid experience where it'll be my absolute pleasure to show you my version of London in a day. Thanks for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget, if you use my discount code Sinead10, that's SINEAD 10, you will receive a lovely discount and you will meet me in person and we will have the time of our lives. Thanks for joining me, ladies and gents. This is London in a Day. Sinead signing out at the Tower of London with Tours by Foot. Thanks for joining me.